今天老李我换个角度，我以 podcast 方式回答之前粉丝在评论区留下的一些问题。我也请了一位我多年好友达姐跟我一起回答。达姐是某厂的 Principal Product Manager， 我们俩从第二语言者、母语者跟她女性的视角来回答这些粉丝关于职场的问题。整个 podcast 分为上下两部，那我们就进入正题。
If we mess up, you can just edit it out, right?
No.
Yes, you can.
This is a live stream.
Can't be like, wow, fail.
Yeah.
You just failed your interview.
There's actually a satellite somewhere.
Sounds terrible.
All right, let's start with the questions I got from the followers. I've noticed senior level colleagues often crack a quick joke, make an inside joke, or use a bit of self-deprecation when they speak or answer questions. And everyone immediately gets it and laughs. We meaning like immigrants, can usually never react that quickly. Even for native English-speaking Asians, you rarely see that kind of humor. How do I deal with it?
I think this happens in a couple different ways. Either it's a pop culture reference, so like something relevant that's going on that people make a joke about, or it's based on commonality in the history of like length of time people have worked together.
Yeah.
That one can be trickier because you haven't been around to know what they're talking about. So I think sometimes if appropriate, like if it's before the meeting has started, you can ask like, oh, is there a funny story? Wait, what happened? And sometimes people want to tell you the story and like bring you into the joke.
Like, do you have certain tricks you kind of blend yourself into that conversation?
Sometimes I think it's a fake it type of approach. Like you just laugh as if you know what the joke is.
Okay.
So you can kind of pick up on maybe different contexts, cues and clues. Or like I was saying, sometimes I just ask like, wait, what happened at last year all hands? And then someone will tell the joke.
What if they tell you something and you still have no clue what they're talking about?
I think pretend. I think I've pretended before that I understand.
Just fake it until you make it type of thing.
Yeah.
And just let it go if you still don't get it.
Yeah, because it's not that important. It's more about like the commonality and the similarity of like participating in the discussion and like showing that you're interested in what people are talking about.
I feel like it's mostly people put too much emphasis on it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to understand every single word, every single conversation they had.
Well, even if you take out language and dialect, if you just look at different teams of people, like there could be a meeting where engineers are speaking about something and it's in English and maybe, you know, Joe doesn't understand and it's not something that you can't either fake it or just ask for them to elaborate on.
Yeah. You feel almost excluded from the conversation, like from the small circle. Mm-hmm. It puts some pressure on your mind that later on what's going to happen. Like, are they going to exclude me for like infinity? Or at what point am I going to be able to break into the circle and, you know, start having conversation?
Yeah.
Do you feel like when that happens among guys, you have a hard time or harder time blending in?
Not really, but I think common interest-wise, there's themes. Like sports are usually a topic that get brought up. I pay attention to those things or like try to understand if it's reoccurring where it's always the same group of people and you notice like, let's use sports as an example. They're always talking about their fantasy football team or last week who won what game. If you're really invested in building relationships, you can spend maybe 10 minutes on Monday morning looking into those things, be able to add to the discussion, or if you just show like general curiosity. But no, with men, I don't think it's typically topics that I don't understand or like need clarification on. It's sometimes more of like a click that's harder to infiltrate. But I think that can go both ways.
There was an episode like when Taylor Swift was invited to New Heights and she was asking Travis about, you know, what if Travis and Jason play against each other on the field? Like, what will happen? And Travis is like, it will never happen. Like, it doesn't work in that way in football. And Taylor was like, oh, okay, you guys never watch football.
Their positions will never play against each other,
I think sports is one, because American football is just is so unique to the U.S. Baseball to some extent too.
maybe basketball would be
Basketball
easier.
is more common,
Yeah.
like in different continents. Like watching a sports center maybe for 10 minutes is going to help to pick up some of those.
Yeah, and I think in saying that, my point is just that it's not as hard as it might seem to find a way to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a caveat where sometimes the pre-meeting or, you know, morning coffee chat is a conversation you don't want to be involved in. Like, I think sometimes, like, let's say the inside joke is something that might be like inappropriate, or speaking about somebody that's not in the room, or, you know, talking about how a last meeting or presentation went poorly. Like, those are things too where I think you kind
Toxic.
where it's okay to stay out of it. But if it's something friendly, family related, sports, how was your weekend, or maybe a TikTok reference of something that's going viral, then I think that's...
When you run into those more like toxic conversations that you just found yourself in it, either you're being pulled into a meeting or you just happen to overhear it, what do you do?
In my experience working for large corporations, the expectation is that you say something if you witness that behavior, but I don't think that's always realistic and practical. Like, what if I'm the most junior person in the room or the newest person? So I think not engaging will also give like a communication and a signal that that's not conversation you want to participate in. And usually people take the hint, I think. I mean, you used to practice that at work, where you just wouldn't respond and people would get the hint.
I will
that
not disclose like any related things over here. Cool. All right. We'll get to the next one. When two or more people are talking and I can't keep up or jump in, they turn to face each other and start a smaller, more private conversation. What should I do in that situation?
It's hard for me to fathom this because that's just so rude.
Just walk away.
Yeah, to think about people doing that. It's like the opposite of an inclusive environment. I think if I was in that situation, I would either interject and ask for them to explain what they're talking about.
Okay. I thought you were going to say, explain why you turn your back to me.
No, or I think if they're unaware that maybe there's like a language barrier, you might have to do the uncomfortable thing in disclosing that to them. Like, I want to participate in this conversation, but can I just check that I'm understanding correctly? And it gives you time to maybe paraphrase like what you think you're hearing and they're talking about. And it should be enough of a subtle cue that tells those people that just excluded you that you want to be included and they need to change the approach.
I think you do a pretty good job in including people into conversation and reading those cues that maybe this conversation is too private and too exclusive to both of us. Let's open up, you know, through body language, verbal, facial cues to signal, you know, hey, do you want to chime in, contribute in whatever shape or form? Like when I was a student maybe, or like early in my Amazon years, we'll beat that. It's pretty common that you just very quickly realize the conversation is shifting away from you. Or maybe I wasn't even in it to begin with. You know, I kind of feel like being excluded from either a conversation or maybe it was a key decision about business. I guess I don't matter. If you're me or if you're in Spain, like, or you speak Spanish, you know, and they're just like keep talking in Spanish and you wanted to jump in, is there a certain thing you would do to get them to open up to you?
I still think my first approach would be to ask what they're discussing. However, if verbal, maybe confrontation isn't the right word, is uncomfortable, I think you can use nonverbals, like you said, to show that you're still interested in engaging. So maintaining eye contact, positioning open body language that shows you're included in this 3-4 way discussion.
I'm trying to think if I had any tricks to breaking into it.
Well, that's why in this situation it's tricky because it's really on the facilitator to maintain the platform for people to all speak and be included. But I feel like I've seen this a lot after meetings wrap up formally, then people break into small groups, and then maybe you still want to be talking to myself and one other person, but we're having our own conversation to where you might have to just find something to say to show that you're participating.
It's like the wife wanted the husband to do dishes type of joke.
Yeah.
Like, I don't just want you to do dishes.
I want you to want to do the dishes.
Right, exactly.
Yep, I don't want to have to ask you.
Right,
I want
you to want to include me into the conversation.
But I think you could go up and say, are you all discussing the follow-up of X, Y, and Z? And if they say, ideally they say, oh yeah, sorry, we're talking about this, and they bring you back in, there's enough like gentle ways to show you're still trying to participate.
I've certainly used that. Because I think people has a tendency to correct people. Either you say yes or no, their answer has to be a yes or no. And if what you ask is not what they talk about, they tend to want to educate you of what they're talking about. And that kind of open up a way for you to jump in. And if they still do that shit, I would just walk away.
But I think that's fine, because then that's not a reflection on you, and you're showing that even if you can't communicate or comprehend as quickly as them, the willingness is still there.
Right.
So they can't create this narrative in their mind that Mike doesn't want to participate because you already made the attempt.
And that I give you a chance to open up to me. And if you still refuse to. You know.
And then same thing, I think you try once.
Right.
I think if you do it multiple times, it can become a little bit like pestering.
Right.
And then, so it's kind of a fine line.
Right. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Let's see. This one, the third one, is still about jokes. Sometimes I don't understand a joke in English and I react a second too late or just freeze up. How should I handle it? My experience is like your English will get to a point that you think you understand 80% of what's going on. There might be a good chance that there is 20% of the content that you don't understand is actually in the joke. But chances are the joke is not something that's appropriate. That's mostly what I found the reason why I don't understand it. And what I found more common is when people mumbles in their chest when they tell a joke. It's something that's offensive, racist, or sexist.
Like under their breath slightly, or like to the side type of, they're not addressing the room. Right.
It's like something you're probably not proud of saying, but you just found it funny.
Well, that's where you have to be careful to not just fake laugh, because laughing shows agreeance or enablement, and it could be something bad.
Right.
And I think that's different than what we previously spoke about. In that situation, I think it's fine if you don't participate, if you don't understand, if it seems to be a one-off joke. When it's a big room or it's something that's being used as like an icebreaker, and again, it's on like those safe topics of sports family plans, it's okay. But if you don't understand and you feel like, to your point, you're 80% like understanding most of the time, it's probably you're not understanding because something's wrong.
Right, exactly,
And you don't need to ask a clarifying question.
You gotta just make things work.
Like, wait, what about Jessica? Probably not.
That can be a way to stand up against that person. They probably will be like, oh, never mind.
True.
It's not that funny.
That could be like a correction.
Right, because that's how you be a upstander. Of, excuse me, I don't understand. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's true.
Even though without you realizing what you're doing is the right thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I found for the most part.
Yeah, because they're self-deprecating jokes, like the first person asked. And those, to me, I think are more obvious than when you're making jokes at other people's expense.
Right. Yeah. If someone makes a joke on the stage and you see nobody run up the stage to arrest them, usually it's fine. You can fake laugh. But when it's like private, only himself or a couple guys, like something is wrong.
Yeah.
How can I understand new words or phrases that my colleagues use all the time, but I've never heard of before? I feel like as soon as I learn one, another one pops up, and there's so many. So
referring to like slang type of?
Slang, words.
Pop culture, maybe.
Different expressions.
Yeah.
Analogies, metaphors.
I think things that I've done in the past relating my experience to working with a different set of people, like engineers, for example, is I take notes and I write down the things I don't understand, and then I research it later, and then figure out a way to use it again, and then I at least understand when it's brought up a second time what they mean. But to address the fact that it's always something new, I mean, you're never going to be able to tell the future and predict what people
right.
are going to do. Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Keep going.
But I think for the most part, people speak and joke and communicate in themes. So you might understand or anticipate potentially like what that phrase means.
Yeah, just like based on the context, you can kind of guess.
When you've been in that situation, is it related to work topics, personal topics?
Maybe both.
Both.
It's a slow process. I don't think there's like within 48 hours, you'll be able to figure out every single word the other person said. Particularly when you met a new person, like you've never talked to before. Like you have certain words that you like to use, and I think I've only heard you saying them. What I did was, the first time you said it, usually I wouldn't be able to catch it. You know, it's okay, whatever.
Because the context in the conversation, you could imply what I meant or what it is. Yeah.
If it was a keyword, here's an example. I think there was like a period that you love using the word anticlimactic. I think it was in that particular period, everything was anticlimactic.
Yeah.
So the first time, for sure, I had no idea what that word means. And it was a key word because without knowing the word, I had no idea what you're talking about.
You're like, I'm recapping a meeting. I'm like, this is very anticlimactic.
Right. And that was it, right? So the first time I was just like, no expression, no reaction. I was like, okay, whatever. But then I think the second time you said it, and I might have looked it up. I think I was trying to mimic the sound with Google. I don't think ChatGPT was a thing back then. Maybe it was just launched and didn't have the voice feature. So I was trying to recreate that sound with Google, and Google usually will be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Did you mean blah, 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 something completely not related? And I think I got maybe lucky that one time you type it out. Oh, and I was like, oh, okay. So I
search it.
And I don't think I linked to the word that you said before, but I Googled and I was like, oh, this sounds like the thing I was trying to mimic, but couldn't recreate. And then so that was a comprehension part. Like after that, I kind of know, okay, that's what that word means. Based on the previous context, I kind of know how to use it. I think the key is to use it. I usually use it for 5 times. And I'll try in very awkward way in situations to use those words.
To work it in. Yeah.
To break it in. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to use it. It's not comfortable to use that particular word in a situation that doesn't fit in that well. But I'll just use it. Yeah. To kind of get my mouth or brain to get acclimated to that. Usually I found myself after 5 times, I was like, okay. That time I said it and they give me what are you talking about? Why did you use that word?
Wrong word, Mike.
Right. And I've done it numerous times. Some and then there might be once or twice. They're like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that gives me a positive reinforcement. Oh, I used it right.
Well, how does this differ in the States, overseas? I haven't been to China, but I've been to multiple countries in Europe for work. So we have a lot of like corporate America slang and phrases like, don't boil the ocean, or let's just get all the low-hanging fruit, like things that are not unique to me and you, but might be unique to that culture. Is that the same in other places? Because those are things. To Europe. Well, once you learn them, my point is that once you learn those repeat and you get them. Versus like your example is maybe a more nuanced situation where you have to figure out what it means and how to use it.
I think in America, or maybe in the UK too, there are a lot of analogies. Yeah. And there's sports analogy, there's like cooking analogy, and in cooking there's smell related, there's taste related, there's music analogies. Like sports analogy is the one that I had to get used to, but I think I was lucky because I watched basketball growing up. So I kind of understand what they're trying to say. The analogies mostly are in football or baseball.
Yeah.
Not so much in basketball.
We hit a home run.
Right, he had to hit a home run. It's the last home stretch. I still have no idea what that means in baseball. I just know like what that means in like
That's
at work.
true, yeah.
Like we got to go tackle the problem, like things like that. This one is more related to work, actually. I remember a meeting, this is from a follower. I remember a meeting where we were discussing making minor adjustment to an app. A non-technical colleague immediately said, I just have one point to remind everyone. We need to be extremely careful with these changes because it's the production environment. My first reaction was, that's so obvious. In a situation like this, how should I respond?
You don't respond.
You don't.
I think that's something you keep to yourself because I'm making assumptions with this question. But clearly the meeting was open to different types of stakeholders and different verticals, whether that's product, engineers, maybe operations, programs. So it's not implied or expected that everybody understands the technical life cycle of product deployment and what might be out of code review and in the prod suite. So I think you just definitely don't say anything.
Yeah, I agree.
And that one comment won't take up too much time in a meeting, so it's just acknowledge it. And I'm assuming the situation too, it might have been somebody superior to the engineer, so it's easy. It's better to just yes, of course.
Or yeah, like.
or I agree.
Plus one.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Well, it's not like they are asking a question towards you or directing a question to you. You don't have to respond. If the question was directed to you, it might be a different story, but I don't know how that person would ask a question. Maybe is asking if you're in charge of a product. Do you guys have any mechanisms, guardrails to make sure it doesn't go wrong? Well, this person either is a superior or who is someone who just want to show off in front of the big bosses to, gain visibility.
Talking for the sake of talking.
Right, talking for the sake of talking, which is not uncommon at all in big tech. Probably like all Fortune 500, it's all similar. You always have that guy.
I think the same way you want grace if you don't understand language that's being used in a joke, you also need to extend grace to a different stakeholder that may not have the same technical skill set as you with the same background.
Right. If you have some context or technical backgrounds around that, you can add on to that.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be overly confident to say we have a mechanism to make sure it doesn't go wrong, because never say never. Like, that's not somewhere you need to promise anything. What if it does go wrong? Like, your reputation or credibility kind of got ruined.
True, but you can respond in a way that...
Right, you can respond in a way that you're contributing, you're adding value, or you can ask questions. If you're kind of a peer with the person, or if your team is a user of that product, I usually ask, that's a good point, do we have a mechanism in place?
Yeah, or rollback criteria, whatever it might be.
Like, what does it look like when we talk about it? Because I found when in a meeting, regardless of my level, even when I was at, L6, I still ask questions. When you ask questions, you're kind of a leader. You're being perceived as a leader. And even as a director, you answering question a lot of times makes people think you're a lower level person, even though your level is high. Because there are only two roles in the meeting. You ask question or you answer question. You ask question usually, or being perceived as a leadership type of role. Next one is, what should I do if my domain knowledge is too shallow and people realize I'm just bluffing? Well, you are the non-technical colleague in the previous question.
Yeah.
Or don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's you. It's definitely that guy.
It's definitely that guy. Well, I think fake it till you make it goes so far, but if there's things you don't know, it's not that hard to learn.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of things in my role that I've listened and partook in a conversation and still had dialogue, but then made notes of, I need to go see what they meant when they used this phrase. Especially if you're external to the company or to the role, some of that's expected, and it's okay to ask questions.
I think some of the themes over here is it's almost like a myth to immigrants that certain people that they work with can just keep talking without talking about anything for half an hour. How can they do that?
Yeah.
To them or to us, that seems to be a skill. But what's your thought?
It's funny. I agree with that assumption. It's funny because those are behaviors that myself and others I think find frustrating. Is people who talk for the sake of talking. Like they use so many words but they're not saying anything. And there's a lot of posturing that also happens in corporate life, where that is, even if you don't like it or find it frustrating like myself, you still have to do it. And where you can do it differently is while you're talking, you provide value instead of just continue to say the same thing in a fluffy, non-productive way.
Right.
But I do think that is kind of a learned skill where you have to see it done and then figure out your own style, because if you just try to copy and paste what you've seen in different meetings, that will come across too very like disingenuous and not authentic.
I think you kind of have to figure out who you truly are. If you're an end problem solver, I think that is very frustrating. But in the meantime, not everyone on this planet are the terminal problem solvers. We're all like a middleman to some extent, particularly in corporate America. There's that famous joke, in the US, there are 10 people in the company, 9 of them are manager, 1 is doing the real job, and when the company is not doing well, they fire the person who is doing the real job. So I think it's fine. You just have to realize that's life. That's reality. It is frustrating though. It's a skill that can be developed. To me, when someone was speaking in a way that just is empty words, it's obvious. You're not adding value. You're kind of creating all of those unnecessary issues in the middle. I'm pretty sure their boss can see that too, but it's not like a black and white. It's not everything should be just, pure white. There's no middleman needed. There's just end customer and end product, and that's it. There needs to be a lot of in between. So I think you have to figure out how to thrive in that gray. But, it's more of a mindset of like the person who is just talking like that is...
Well, if you don't want people to know you're bluffing, don't do that.
Right.
Don't talk for the sake of talking, because then you will allow people to poke holes and expose what doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, it's your choice. Who do you want to be? I think certain skill is needed, but don't turn into that person. That's a reputation you don't want to carry.
Well, and I think it's better to get the feedback of, we want to hear more from you. You should speak up more in meetings if your manager tells you that, versus the opposite of, hey, you're talking too much and you're not saying a lot. So we need you to bring some more concise thoughts. So it's better to be told to talk more, I think, if you're uncomfortable or still learning how to present yourself in that way.
Right, yeah. I think a lot of people fall into the spectrum of not saying anything at all. And from my perspective as well, at one point, I almost admire people who can just talk for the sake of talking, because I'm on the opposite side. I think eventually I found somewhere in between. I don't know where in the spectrum I was at. But I think somewhere I was not at least on the total extreme side of not talking at all. Yeah.
Agreed.
It's almost like I had to force myself to talk.
But then how did you learn what to talk about? So if you force yourself to talk, how do you know what to say?
In conversations, like social conversations, it's hard.
No, in meetings, work meetings. Maybe doc reviews, for example.
上半部我们就先讲到这儿。如果你觉得对你有帮助，记得评论、转发、关注李看。我们下期见。